Hey guys, what's up? It's the Tominator. So finally, bodybuilding is back. After months of waiting, we just had the 2020 Tampa Pro, with Hunter Labrada making his pro debut in style. I'm really just going to focus on the top two, which was him and Iain Valliere. Those were the two biggest names going in, and the ones who most people predicted would go first and second. It was just a matter of what order. Well, as it turns out, it was fairly decisive in the end, but let's just quickly go through the quarter turns here. Now, I couldn't get a proper front relaxed, but from the side, I actually prefer Iain. He looks more tapered and his physique just flows nicely in this one. Labrada looks a little blocky here. Here's a closer look from the other side just to confirm, and yeah, Valliere is just hitting it better. Hunter's chest is kind of flat and his waist looks a little thick from this angle. Hunter's pecs, as many people have pointed out, is probably his weakest body part. There's just something kind of funny about his chest that, it looks good from the front, but when he turns to the side, it tends to flatten out like a pancake. If I were him, I'd pull a page out of Rolly Winkler's old playbook and stop training delts altogether for a while to let the chest catch up. Or at least lay off the presses and the front raises because he's definitely shoulder dominant. But anyway, it's not a big deal because when they turn to the rear, Hunter beats him easily. His back is wider, the traps are thicker, and the glutes and hams and calves all go to him. For what it's worth though, either of the black guys on the outside are arguably better than Hunter in this rear relaxed, but in the interest of keeping this thing moving, we're going to be focusing solely on the top two from here on out. So in the front double biceps, I've got Hunter easily. The arms are bigger, the biceps are more separated, the lats are a little meatier, and downstairs, he's starting to remind me of a young Branch Warren. Yeesh, those are some thick-ass thighs. Not that Valliere's legs are bad by any stretch of the imagination. His quads are also one of his strong points. He's got excellent sweep and separation there, though it kind of falls apart when you look below the knee. But his upper body's good too, a nice trim waistline, big arms, but ultimately he's just getting a bit outmassed here by the rookie. So it's 1-0 Labrada. In the lat spread, though, I'll tell you what, I prefer Iain again. I didn't think I'd like it based on his Instagram pics leading up to the show, where it looked like he was shrugging his shoulders too high and compromising his width. And Labrada, conversely, looked amazing in all his front lat spread progress pics. But based on these photos, and there were only like 3 or 4 to choose from, I gotta give it to Valliere. He's filling out the shot better, and that X-frame is on point. You do gotta love the width of Hunter, though, and those tree trunk thighs. But in terms of the lats, it's just not doing it for me here. They insert sorta high, and there's way too much empty space under his arms. I do appreciate the aesthetic posing style, though. Now, the side chest is one that I figured could go either way, because it's a pretty strong pose for Iain, and based off of initial looks on social media, I actually thought that Iain looked better in the picture that I saw, but that's not the case here. It's close, but no cigar. Hunter's just so much thicker and fuller, especially through the upper body, and even his subpar chest looks pretty decent from this angle. I'm not a fan of Valliere's stance here either, with the back leg almost straight. It looks a little distracting, and I think he'd be better off bending it like how Hunter does. That's the more conventional stance. But anyway, the main problem with Valliere in this show, or at least the number one problem he could have easily fixed that would have made a big difference, is that his tan was way off. He just wasn't dark enough, and I think some of the definition was getting lost in the lights. Not that he nailed his conditioning, because as you'll see when we get to the back poses, he didn't. But having a darker tan could have definitely helped him out here. So in this back double, it's actually closer than I would have assumed. Iain probably has more detail and muscle maturity in his back, particularly the lower half. Plus, if you look closely, his shoulders and traps are both bigger. But Labrada's got a bit more width, better symmetry, especially through the arms, and the conditioning in the lower body seals the deal. Okay, a little funny aside, I even saw some comments on one of Nick's videos where people were declaring Hunter Labrada to be the next big thing at the Olympia, or even the next Phil Heath. Okay, let's pump the brakes on that a bit, guys. This was an excellent debut, and he brought some solid conditioning, no doubt. But this is nowhere near a Phil Heath. Could this physique crack top 10 at the O? Very likely, yeah. Top 6? Maybe, but I wouldn't bet on it, not just yet. It would all depend on how the other top guys looked, but it's way too premature to say that this is the next Mr. Olympia after winning one show in a shallow lineup. And that's not meant to be disrespectful. I just want to give some perspective and kind of temper expectations a bit. I mean, give this kid a chance. He's just getting started. We haven't even seen if he's proven himself to be consistent at this stage. But anyway, moving on. So this is not an official pose, obviously, but I figured I might as well show you these rather unimpressive Christmas trees, if only to drive home the point I was just making, because you barely see anything going on here in either of their lower backs. And after recently reviewing the 1987 German Grand Prix with Labrada, let's just say that Hunter's Christmas tree is nowhere even remotely in the same league as his father's was. So the kid's still got work to do. The rear lat spread is already a strong shot for him, though. He's really wide, and the lower body looks great. Valliere's back, for whatever reason, just doesn't seem to open up much here. He looked a lot better in the front version, I thought. And while his hamstrings are defined, the glutes do not measure up to what Hunter brought. So for anyone still keeping score, it's now 4-1 for Hunter. And unfortunately, it's not about to get any better for Iain because he loses the side try as well. They both look good here, but again, Hunter's just got that thickness element from the side that Iain surprisingly doesn't. Labrada's triceps are also leaps and bounds better in this pose, and with the abs nicely flexed and good detail through the side leg, Hunter's extra mass and density are enough to secure him the win here. Maybe if you could somehow swap their triceps and give Iain Hunter's and Hunter Iain's, maybe then that'd be enough, but as it is, Valliere just looks a little too flat and lean here. He is very aesthetic though, and has great execution, I'll grant him that. This is probably his best pose. The ab and thigh is interesting because neither of them hit it head on, instead opting for this side variation. And it's not that Iain looks bad, he's just getting overshadowed once again by a more muscular, more conditioned, and better tanned bodybuilder. They both have amazing feathered quads, but Hunter's midsection is looking much sharper, so he takes it. And finally, in the most muscular, we've got two looks. First with Hunter with the one hand on the hip, and in a second he'll join Iain in the hands clasped. But it doesn't matter which one, Hunter takes this pose too. Better pecs, better abs, and arguably better quads. Definitely better legs overall if you include the calves. Here's a more direct comparison where they're hitting the same shot, and yeah, it's Hunter all day, guys. Ironically, his biggest advantage is actually in the pecs, with his chest looking much squarer and thicker than Valliere's. He's also got more width across the shoulders, so yeah, another easy win for him here in the most muscular. Alright, so that's going to do it for this one, guys. Like I said at the beginning, a very convincing victory here for Hunter Labrada in his first pro show. He looked about as good as anyone could have hoped for, and shows a lot of promise with his tremendous thickness, balance, and symmetry. The only poses I ended up giving to Iain were the side relaxed and the front lat spread. Everything else went to Hunter. Hopefully he'll prove to be one of the bright spots in the future of bodybuilding, because Lord knows we certainly could use that right about now with all these legends like Dexter Jackson retiring or otherwise stepping away from the stage. But anyway, guys, that's just my 2 cents. Thank you for watching, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Until the next time, it's the Tominator signing off, and I'll be back.